Hey guys, it's been a while since I did a book review, but this time I think it's worth the wait. I am almost done with an audiobook called A Radical Guide for Women with ADHD by Sari Solden. So this is a book that is so good that even though I have 20 minutes left to finish it, I thought I'd film my review because I want to post it and get it out there, because it is one of the few books where I felt things spoke to me so at such a deep level that I started implementing them immediately. Now, the context is that I was about to start a new project, and before starting any new project I like to just go over my little notes because I have my own notes for self-development and things like that, the things that I don't want to redo, my learnings from previous projects, etc. And I had that sinking feeling that I was again drowning in work. I was looking at my calendar, it was getting ridiculous, and I just decided that I did not want to go through a train crash again. So I said, you know what, let me just do a bit of research because I know that a lot of the overcommitment is just one of the traits from my ADHD. And as I was looking online through resources, I did come across the name of Sari Solden mentioned several times when it comes to women with ADHD, because that's definitely a subtopic that is not explored enough. You have so much content on kids with ADHD and all the mommy blogs and things like that. It's very difficult to find something for my niche of overachieving professional women with ADHD. It's like impossible. So I just thought, you know what, let me read about that. I read a few reviews and I decided to get the audiobook, and I really enjoyed it. So what I liked about it is that it doesn't have any condescendence. Remember in the previous review that I did of how to unfunk your brain or something like that, it was just too condescending, too simplified. I didn't learn much. This book was filled with so many aha moments, and it spoke to you as an intelligent person, and I really liked that. At the same time, it used a lot of examples that spoke to your human level, which meant that a lot of the situations were relatable, and you would find yourself nodding like, yes, that definitely happened to me. And I decided to review it simply because I found myself listening to something like 15 or 20 minutes every day and finding a bit of solace or a bit of additional explanation of things happening in my day-to-day. So I'm going to, in the next few minutes, cover some of the topics that it covered, some of my biggest learnings, but the bottom line is that I highly recommend it, even if you do not have ADHD. I just feel that a lot of the things that were mentioned apply to women because of the duality of ADHD and being a woman. It just felt like it's something that would apply to anybody struggling with not conforming to a specific role in society, and anybody struggling with self-esteem or with not being seen for your true potential just because you happen to have some flaws. So very good book. So let's get started with the content. The first part was the usual explaining what ADHD is and the fact that it comes under different presentations. You have the more hyperactive, and then the more inattentive, and then the one that is a little bit a combination of the two. All of that stuff is pretty basic in my opinion, but it wasn't jarring, so I was fine going through it. Then she started illustrating with the how you feel, because you realize that you are not really conforming to the gender expectation of what you see in, for example, social media. You know, when you're on Instagram and you see people color coding everything, you watch Marie Kondo, or you see all the nice flat lays of the home edit, which I also have recently watched on Netflix and things like that, and you're thinking, I'm not that person. I try to be that person sometimes, but I'm not that person, because the image that you get, which is why I said that this book is not necessarily just for people with ADHD. You're looking at these images of, for instance, women who have a nice career and they go pick up their kids from soccer, and then they always have their meals together, and then they can change into something very nice for date nights, and they don't miss birthdays, and blah and blah and blah. And you start thinking, okay, so I'm not all that. But I know deep down that there is something really important in what I do, or I know that I have my own merits, but I don't see that portrayed somewhere. So that was the first thing. The usual, oh yeah, what you see on social media is not really, should not be a reflection of how you feel about yourself and all that, blah blah blah. The part where I started nodding was when she started explaining what it feels like to have ADHD. So I'll give you a couple examples. Fatigue from a normal day or schedule. That's something that I was thinking, no, I don't have a normal day or schedule. I have a very demanding job, and that's why I'm always fatigued. But then I realized that I had done such a great job at pushing back and organizing, like, you know, not overtaking a lot of things. And even when I had normal days, I still ended up being really, really, really tired and unable to do anything. So that was the first thing. Then an inability to account accurately for how long something would take you. And that's again something where I was like, no, that's not happening. But then the moment I read it, I started actually paying more attention. And that's one of the things that I changed afterwards, because I want to tell you at the end of the video what are some of the things that I did that I think have been working really, really, really well for me recently after reading the book. She didn't use these as tips. It's just that for me, having that clarity of seeing things in front of me gave me the impetus to say, okay, I'm gonna do this and this and that. So the time management thing is something that on some aspects I'm ruthless, but when it comes to me, I have noticed that I did let myself go quite a lot. What else? Trouble cooking and shopping. That one I was thinking, maybe not so much, but then I realized that I do go through phases where I have a lot of stuff, and then phases where I have nothing to eat and things like that, or where I'm just not very excited about what I'm eating, or I go to the supermarket and I don't buy something, and then I come back and I'm like, And then the last thing that, the last example that she mentioned that really resonated with me, and she mentioned thousands of them, was the fact that after a lot of conversations and excitement and being in areas, I feel the need to really recharge, and I feel the need to recover in solitude. And that could be probably my introversion, but that's the thing, so many things are so intertwined that you can't really tell. So these are the aspects that when I was reading the book, whenever she gave these examples, I was like, yeah, this is me. I did not relate to other examples, which is fine. We all have different presentations, but this is what got me started and hooked and thinking, okay, so now I need to do some things about, my life. One concept stuck with me from the book, and it is the concept of executive functioning or executive function. That's something that I found extremely useful to know, and it's essentially your ability to understand time, keep track of tasks, know how to prioritize, call back people and things like that. And I needed a catch-all for that, like a word for that. And it was very eye-opening for me to know that this is where I lack that executive function. And when I think about it, it is something that can be outsourced, and that will get me to the part of what I decided to do after reading the book, because I have implemented some changes, and I filmed a couple of them in my diary. So I changed a few things on how I organize my meetings. I changed a few things about how I do delegate tasks. I also started being very upfront about it with the people I work with, and essentially letting them know whenever I I am about to start a project or I had not collaborated with that person up front, I'm able to put words on to what is happening. I say, look, so this is my energy profile, this is how I work throughout the day, this is how I focus, this is where I'm not focused, and these are some of the tasks that I typically struggle with. And that was quite liberating. I did that with the team that I was working with in my project, and it was just a completely different experience because I just felt like I did not have to overcompensate. I'm still obviously responsible for delivery, I'm still responsible for making sure that everything gets done, but I just felt like this time I was a bit more compassionate just because I knew that people knew what was happening, and so it just took an extra layer of wanting to people not to know that you don't typically naturally think about calling people back and things like that, right? What happened is that over the past few weeks, I have seen myself drown in work. I have simply overcommitted, and every day at the end of the day, I would just see my to-do list and how I did not manage to cross anything because I kept having meetings in. I kept seeing how my calendar looked like a Tetris. It was so I'm very good at having my color coding and all that. But the thing is that it just highlighted the sheer amount of stuff I had on my plate, and it never seemed to decrease. It seemed that every time I would start my day looking at my calendar that is full, back to back. And that's been going on for a while, which you probably would have noticed from the lack of videos, because whenever I disappear, it means that I barely have time to eat. So, Friday night, I was so busy, and it was the end of the day, and I was about to just get started working on a couple slides, and I was very unhappy about it. I was tired, I did not want to do it. And then something happened. The client I'm working with decided to pause the project for 4 weeks because an operational issue happened and they wanted to focus on that. And obviously, whenever you have consultants, it's very, very intense. So you cannot really just say, oh, I'm going to do both. So they decided to focus on their issue and then start again in 4 weeks. Which meant that Friday night, I got that miracle that I didn't even think would happen, where all of a sudden I was in a position to cancel all my meetings and engagements related to that specific project. And here is the eye-opening moment. After I did all that, I looked at my calendar for the next 2 weeks and realized it barely looked like a proper person's calendar. So what happened is that I was so busy that I was actually double booked, which means that I would have a meeting and then a meeting that starts halfway through that meeting and then the other one, which means that whenever I removed some meetings, it just looked like I did have a little bit of free time, but actually not much has changed. Nonetheless, I thought this was the miracle I needed, and I decided that I'm going to take matters in hand because they were really getting crazy. I was getting as tired as when I was in November and December, and I don't want to go back there. So I started implementing few changes as of today, and I thought I would make a video over the next few days telling you about all the little changes that I implemented. So for today, the first thing that I did was that I reinstalled the inbox review. Whenever I manage my calendar, normally if I were to do it the right way, I always have a block of time that is maybe half an hour or 45 minutes called inbox review, where I essentially go over all the emails that I have received overnight or over the past few days and I didn't have time to look at. And then for anything that is just for info, I delete it. Anything that is for action, I assess if it's very, very light, like can you send me this document, or can you schedule this meeting or whatever, I will do it immediately. If it's something that requires more work, I would actually schedule it and plan for the work. What happened when I got really overwhelmed is that I stopped doing my inbox review and the emails kept piling up and piling up and piling up. So this morning, at Monday, first thing, I had 311 unread emails. And that is really anxiety inducing because at least for the emails you read, you know what it involves. These are emails I did not even touch, I did not even have a look at. So that was the first thing I did. Today I had a bit of a longer inbox review session. I've been doing it for 2 hours because I didn't have, all my meetings that were client related were cancelled, and that really felt good. And I have been planning my calendar, etc., and it's already filling up, but it's filling up in a way that I know what is coming in, and I can actually properly think through how much time I need. So that was the first thing, inbox review. The second change I just implemented is also from looking at my calendar over the past few weeks. I had so many of these meetings, and in between meetings I would just try to sneak in a 30-minute time slot to work on a specific topic, and I came to the conclusion that 30 minutes means I just get distracted and nothing gets done, because my meeting will run late, so I will start my 30-minute time slot maybe 5 to 7 minutes late, and by the time I ramp up I already get a couple emails and I get distracted, and then just like that the half hour is over and I need to go to the second thing. So the other thing that I have implemented was simply I do not schedule work time unless it's a 1 hour block or more. If I think about how my brain works, I obviously ramp up, but I need to get in the focus zone. And that doesn't happen when I have 30-minute chunks, because I work on, because I'm senior and I'm involved in a lot of things, I have to switch topics. That start, stop just wasn't working for me. And so now I have looked at my calendar, and for all the things that are under my control, I simply decided to put bigger time chunks, even if it means that something gets done tomorrow or something gets done late at night. I just want to have workable time slots, because the start-stop was just exhausting me. The way my brain works is that I need an optimum level of stimulation. And the 30-minute tiny slots were too much of a switching on and off that provided stimulation but didn't allow me to get in the zone. So I started implementing this. Obviously it's easier now because I have less meetings, but even with that I have maybe 8 to 9 meetings this week, even because they're not client related, right? I'm giving a master class, I'm giving a training, I'm attending a meeting, all these kind of things. So that was the second change that I did. And to tie it with the first one, I decided that if something can be done in under 30 minutes, such that it warrants the 30-minute time slot, it probably will get dealt with in my inbox review. And so in that case, my inbox review time will be maybe an hour instead of the half hour to 45 minutes. So I have started putting things in, and I already feel okay about my to-do list. I already feel like, because I have put these times, I feel that what I'm committing to is realistic. Because before I would just say, okay, I'm gonna write an investment thesis for a company. Like, if a client is thinking we're gonna buy a company, I need to tell them why. This kind of stuff takes hours to make, and I would want to, before I would just put it in half-hour chunks, and now I just decided to block a good 2 hours, not do anything until I have a good first draft. And eventually, when you think about it, you end up taking up less time. The only exception is my little mentoring meetings and things like that. These I have kept them to 20 minutes because I usually do it for 20 minutes. If we need the full time, we use it. If we need a little bit more, it goes to the half hour. And I also try to organize them on a Friday. So Friday I am able to switch between a lot of different topics, because I'm already mentally in that space where I'm doing a lot of admin stuff and like approving things, reviewing content and stuff like that. So these are the first two changes that I made. I still need to find to add a couple changes regarding my breaks and my non-work related activities, but that will be in a few days. I believe in implementing changes little by little, and because this is a pattern, like overworking and overcommitting has been a pattern that I've seen for months, I will just give myself this week to, you know, get in the mood of the inbox review, get in the mood of doing the 1 hour plus chunks, and maybe in a week or two I will add other things, and then I would film my next steps. So I hope that this will be helpful for people who are overcommitting. Doesn't have to be work related, right? It can also be that part of your commitments are work, and then you have family, and then you have hobbies, and then you have other obligations. But it's really just to get that oxygen, you know, because I just was feeling really underwater. So I decided to do it right, do it slowly, but not go back. It's been now a couple of weeks since I implemented a lot of the changes, and I feel that overall it's really working really well for me. I have been ordering my veggie boxes, and because I don't know what's in them, I am cooking the rainbow, so I'm not really that fussed. Also, the fact that I have the deliveries automatically sent means that I don't find myself forgetting to get enough groceries. I have scheduled a few things up front so that they just happen when they happen, and I don't have to always remind myself of, oh, you need to book X or Y task. So I feel that even the way I speak about myself has become a bit more different, and I feel that I have less of a burden in trying to go against the grain. So I do feel like I have a little bit more energy. I do feel a little bit calmer, because when you try to do something that is so against your nature, it's just a lot of work. So this is a book that I'm going to finish, and I'm actually going to revisit it in a couple months. The fact that it's an audiobook is quite helpful for me, but I'm going to revisit it in a couple months, just because I feel that when it comes to stuff like that, you always pick something different every time that you revisit this kind of content. It might even end up being a book that I buy in physical form and give to some of my friends, which is something I am known to do every now and then with books that I really like. But very, very, very good book. I highly recommend it. I was very pleased. I'm going now to finish the last 20 minutes. Before I do that, I wanted to show you the book that I'm going to start next. This one is a physical book. This one is a completely different type of content. This is called Creating Luck. It's a very old book by Marcio Amaral. So I think he published it maybe over 10 years ago. So I had to buy it secondhand. And it's a cute little book about a lot of different topics. So I know Marcio. He's Brazilian, and he used to be a feng shui practitioner. He no longer does that, and we were just talking, and it came in conversation, and he said, you know, I had a book, and I was like, oh, let me read that. So I just decided to buy it. I think it's going to be a nice, quick, nice read. I will probably implement a couple things in my house, but I think after such a heavy soul searching type of reading, I just needed something light. I think the ADHD and women thing is something that technically you could go through the book very quickly. The reason I didn't is because I really could only take 20 minutes or 15 minutes at a time, because these things hit really hard when you hear examples of like how some people feel and what goes in your mind, and you can relate to that. It's not really light. So yeah, I'm just going to use this as a cute little palette cleanser, and then I'm going to talk to my friend Marcio about it and tell him what I thought of it. And yeah, look within. I just feel like even the font is big, and yeah, you need something like that every now and then. So that is it. That is my review for the book. I highly recommend that you go and buy it, or get an audiobook or something like that. I have a meeting now, so I'm going to do my meeting. I'm a little bit tired because it's the end of the day, and I'm like, oh, I'm a bit exhausted. And that's also one of the things that you need to know about yourself, is the energy profile. And I am at the stage where my energy is really low, so I'm gonna need to eat something and then go to my meeting. So see you in my next video. Take care.